Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's do this night.
Thank you. So I think it's important to check in on feelings, because I think we're all, from just getting online to where we're here right now, there's much change to getting to this point, to being online and to being focused here and choosing your beverage if you have one. You know, it can be a lot to think about. So glad we're doing that right now. Just wanted to let you know that we are recording this. My name is Stephanie Elkins, and I'm the Continuum of Care coach and consultant with Be Present Care. My focus is to educate, guide, and coordinate caregiving and end-of-life conversation plans and programs, and being able to have this platform with all of you, first with Death Over Drafts, happy hours in person through Greater Los Angeles Breweries, and now on the line with all of you. That's why the beverage of your choice is important. I am not drinking beer tonight. I am a cultural Jew. I don't know, religious, spiritual, cultural.
Oh, I was like, what on earth could be the reason?
I don't know if any of you are drinking. I'm not going to go. This could be a Seder I could lead tonight about, Passover, but we are now here for a happy hour. And so I'm drinking Manischewitz Concord Great, which, just FYI, was the first alcohol I got drunk off of. Because it's very sweet wine, if none of you have tried it or not. I started the Death Over Drafts with my colleague and friend Jill when we were part of the Reimagine event in October in San Francisco. So Jill with Death Doula LA really was like, let's get this started. And from hosting these Death Over Draft happy hours online, it's really a component of a larger aspect of what we're calling TDIF. Hashtag TDIF, Thank Death It's Fridays.
Thank Death It's Fridays. Let's give a really big cheers to that, first of all, because we made it to Friday, even though you might not know what day it is. So cheers.
Yeah. So Thank Death It's Friday for all of us. Ooh, you just made your...
I did not do anything.
Oh, Megan is showing some of our upcoming talks. Look at her. She's so on top of it. So she's screen sharing right now our upcoming talks, what we've had and where we're at today, which is grief. Thanks, Megan. So these are our top, what we're doing with all of this is we have a YouTube page that's gone up with these recordings and some thoughtful pieces, audio pieces that the team here with Jill, Megan, Rocio, and Amber that you'll be hearing a little bit later on today, where we all have different skill sets and focuses and priorities in holding space for everybody, especially around this topic of grief. So I just kind of wanted to go around and give you a little bit of context of what we're doing together. Then we'll do another toast, and then we'll get right into it. So right now, what we've done in the past, even though I would like to get to know we would love to get to know each one of you individually, it's just so hard. So what we're doing today, and what we're doing is we're doing prompting questions. Like we said, the topic is grief. We're doing prompting questions. Then it's going to give you an opportunity to answer the questions in the chat. Megan will kind of do a review of what's in there. And then Amber or Rocio will do a follow-up in terms of a context to grief. Okay, so that's going to be kind of the flow of the conversation to hear. And there is going to be an opportunity after the prompt question if one or two of you want to share. We also want to acknowledge that grief is can be a really challenging conversation, really poignant conversation for all of us right now. We can't find out where every one of you is right now with grief. We want to hold this space for you, but we also want to make you understand that this is not a grief or bereavement or support group. And so if there's something that you're talking about, we might gracefully say, this is a conversation we'd rather take offline, or we're going to move on to the next, because we want to be mindful of you and the expectations of this. And what we're here to really do today is do this Death Over Draft happy hour, talk about a heavy subject matter for us to really engage in it. So I just wanted to kind of give that.
Yeah. And we've already got stuff coming in from our first question that Megan can share a little bit. So the poll is already in the group chat if you want to.
Let me go ahead and read it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're now moving on. So once again, acknowledgement to all that about grief and knowing we're all at different places. And if you need to get out of here because it's too much for you right now, we're not going to take it personally. Okay? If this talk is too much, Megan's like, Stephanie, make sure you acknowledge that if it's too much for people, we get it. We want to be here for you, but we understand you might need to do your own thing. Okay. So the first question is, here we go. Oh, do we all do a cheers? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for understanding.
Yep.
So grief is, let's see what grief is. A, I'm turning my page. It's like you said, it's in the chat. A, is something I've never experienced and look forward to. B, only happens when someone you love dies. C, only affects you emotionally, not physically, spiritually, socially, or cognitively. D, has a time frame around 3 days to 6 weeks. That's usually how grief runs. Or E, grief is a natural response to losing someone or something close to you. I know this is a hard one for you guys. What do you guys think? Like I said, these were just prompts. Sometimes we use the death deck questions, but since we're doing more grief focused, I make up my own.
Obviously, you set them up.
I know.
This one.
Yeah, I set you guys up for this one because I think you've all experienced grief. Yes, you guys are. Good job. Look at all the E's. Wow. We won't take it.
It's a really hard test.
Yeah. We didn't know if anybody had any other feedback on grief that they wanted to share right now. I think it did, Megan.
I think what Christina said there about how a lot of friends and a lot of people that maybe haven't experienced this think that it's restricted, that maybe the level of your association with a person or how close, important they are to you family-wise has the most impact on whether or not there's grief, right? And I think a lot of us know that's not the case.
And as professionals, there's also something called disenfranchised grief that we might not be aware of. It's like grief we experience for people we're taking care of, but we're not like first of the line. I know there's a lot of professionals in this, Nicole.
I think that the word grief is maybe not in even people's vocabulary. And just the acknowledgement of all the different feelings is kind of our role in it, right? Is because some people don't have a word for it. And sometimes when they don't have a word for it, they can go back. You can say this is an acknowledgement of grief, and it doesn't matter the relationship that you have to it. Is there anything else, Megan, you wanted to add? No? Okay, that just popped up.
Amber.
Oh, yeah. Amber, did you want to kind of share a little bit about your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm glad to see, well, I'm glad that a lot of people were saying E, but I'm glad that some people were bringing up B, because the reason that we chose this topic is that we wanted to really discuss the way that we're all feeling right now, which is that I think that it's safe to say that we're all sort of in a state of grief, and it's really uncomfortable because we don't really have words to describe how we feel because we haven't really lost anything, right? Like for me, nobody's died. I haven't experienced anything so terrible that it's the end of the world, but like it's been very stressful. So we wanted to just classify what the timelines are of grief. So you've got two kinds. There's acute and persistent. Sometimes it's also referred to as chronic grief. Most people experience acute grief, which is about 6 to 12 months. And usually it will resolve. I don't like saying resolve, but usually it resolves itself within 12 months. However, if it lasts longer than that, so chronic stress can become an adverse reaction to it, which can lead to all sorts of physical, emotional issues. So depression, trouble sleeping, feelings of anger, bitterness, anxiety, loss of appetite, pains, and some of those symptoms might sound familiar to what we're experiencing. I think I felt all of those just today. Like from the moment I woke up till like right now, I have experienced every single one of these. Today has just been like, today is like my bad day for like grief and anxiety. I'm just like holding myself together with like Scotch tape, I think. So is anybody else experiencing this? Is this resonating with anyone? Is everyone else doing well? If you are, that'd be fantastic. I don't know.
If anybody
Yeah.
wants to say something, if you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you.
Let's
Betsy?
unmute Betsy.
Yeah.
Betsy, go ahead.
Oops, I unmute.
Okay,
I
no,
got
don't,
her.
let me do it.
Okay.
Oh, I unmuted it. Okay. Oh, and Amber, sending you love and to everybody because it is crazy, crazy out there. One concern I have about grief is having been, I call myself a recovering psychotherapist, is that we used to have to diagnose people, you know, with the DSM, and Lisa, you'll know, like with complicated grief. You know, if you're not over it, there's actually a psychiatric diagnosis for people. And that's my concern about this, because this grief is going to go on, and all the people up there who are sometimes being told that if it's not gone in like 6 months, it's complicated, and they're given medication and that kind of thing. So that's been a concern of me too, just with the therapy world and how we used to view it. And I would never give people that diagnosis because it just didn't seem right. So that was a concern of me, of putting people on medications and things with it. So I hope that doesn't happen, you know, with the therapists as we get further down the road with this.
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. I would, at a later date, let's have a chat about that, Betsy, because I'm very interested in the diagnosis of grief.
Oh, yeah.
and-
I mean, that's
yeah.
why, you know, I just recovering psychotherapist because I
We'll
hate when
talk.
people
I
diagnose
love
it.
that
Let's
phrase
talk.
too. And then
Let's talk, yeah.
Rocio, what were you gonna say, girl?
Yeah, I mean, I also agree with the timeline, the framing of how we process grief, because there's layers to it, right? We're not going to get into every single layer of the layers of grief. We'll talk a little bit about that just to hold the container in general. But I mean, there's people that are still processing grief from even when they were in utero, right? And so there's, again, it's complicated, you know, to be able to just look at grief in a linear way. It's more,
Right.
It's vast, bigger than that. And I think last week we had a little bit of that conversation around some of the layers of grief that we're dealing with, which we'll go into. But it's I think the framework gives us an opportunity to just see some of the processes that we can possibly go through, just a framework, and then it, you know, and uncovering and unpacking the layers of it, because there's so much layers with grief. So
Totally. Of course. That's why this is a starting point, at least for us that acknowledge it. Is there anybody else that wanted to share right now? Okay. So thank you.
Let's hear from Lisa real quick. Go ahead, Lisa, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk just a little bit. Two things that resonated with me. One, you know, working in hospice still, I experience a lot of grief of my patients that die, and I feel like that surprises people because they're like, you knew they were dying, you know. You kind of knew what you were getting with that. The other thing I wanted to talk about just for a second is you know, the anticipatory grief. And I think that's part of what we're experiencing as a world right now is like, we anticipate we're going to lose people we love, or we anticipate all of these other losses, that some are already happening, but that layer by layer of grief, that is, you know, a lot of times with anticipatory grief, we see that pretty easily with like people with dementia that go through phases and they're less and less able to communicate, and we begin to like lose them a little bit at a time. But I think right now we're just in this, everyone is anxious about what they might lose, and it just feels really just unsettling all the time. So that's all.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you. All right. No,
And also, like, I kind of want to circle back to Amber really quick and ask you, like you have a whole like process of how you've been working and coping with grief, and been doing like empirical research on like different physicalities of how grief can manifest, and your like thing is cooking. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, cooking was just another level of, so for those of you that don't know me, I co-founded Undertaking LA, which was a funeral home that put a lot of emphasis on being more hands-on with the body. So my approach to everything is being very hands-on, and that doesn't have to work for everyone. And I want to just put that out there, that this is what works for me. Just like within my family, when my grandfather died, I was the only one that washed and dressed his body, because a lot of people in my family were like, that doesn't work for me. It's great that you want to do it. That makes us feel great that you're there. So I want to be really conscientious and say this doesn't have to work for you. But this, with the same idea, is that when you're working through grief and you're working through death, that when you're present, when you're hands-on, when you're actualizing the grief and being present in how you feel. And I think also facing your fears. One of the things I saw probably all the time with a funeral was when you come to the funeral home, that the tension in your body, the shoulders, everything, you're holding so much inside of you and you're so scared. And then when you see the body and you're present with it, you realize that that's sort of, it's so cliche, but true. Like the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. And our grief and sadness is wrapped up in the tension and stress from that. So cooking is an outlet for me, and it uses the same principles of being present, being mindful, and taking your anxieties and turning it into an activity that's also practical and useful. You have to eat. You just do. It's a thing you've got to do every day. So why not make the thing that could be a thing that just seems terrible to have to get up, to have to feed yourself, into something that really does nurture you? And saying nurture and nurturing your soul are so not things that I normally say, which I hope really conveys how much I believe in it. So yeah.
And I can attest that Amber's cooking is like delicious. Maybe because it's made with grief. No, just kidding.
Yeah. All right. So that is a good, really great segue into chat question 2. Grief affects me. A, physically. I become very fatigued and just want to sleep all the time. B, emotionally, all I can do is cry, or at other times I'm just angry at the world. And C, mentally, I can't concentrate and don't feel like I'm doing this grieving thing right. Or D, a combo of some or all of the above. Megan just put it in the combo box, so love to hear your kind of thoughts on what kind of combination this is for you.
Megs, tell us what you're getting.
All D's all across the board. Ooh, I got a good one. E, I don't know. I don't know how grief affects me. I like that one. I think a lot of times for me, I know that when I look backwards on some of my responses or my behavior or my emotional reactions to things, I'm like, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm grieving. And I'm crazy.
Yeah, this is actually why I, to be a little bit personal, why one of the reasons I don't do grief counseling in my practice, because I know that when I grieve, it comes out in so many different ways and like such extreme forms. I don't even know what to tell people, when they're grieving. So I'm kind of like, what is that, E? Maybe, I don't know. I'm a mess.
Yeah.
We also have some A's in here, which are like physical, right? And I know that the prompt here says physical, I feel exhausted, but I know I'm not the only one in this group that grieves and does hyperactivity, right? Like feels incredibly motivated and gets an incredible amount of stuff done.
That's like me during COVID right now. It's so weird. So weird. Like the overall grief has turned me into like a work machine. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done, but it's weird. Yeah, Amber, what's up?
I think that it's really important to point out that, like, because I sense a lot of guilt in people looking at like everyone on Instagram that's like, oh my God, look at what they're doing. Like Shakespeare wrote King Lear. Like that to me is, and I think my own cooking, that's just me letting out all of my sadness. Like that shouldn't be like a thing to make other people feel bad. Like nobody should feel like they're not, nobody should. That's like its own conversation. The shouldings, the shoulds. But like everybody is expressing their grief in different ways. So don't hold yourself to anybody else's standards. Like the people that are doing lots of things, that's just their way of grieving. Or for me, it is. Sounds like it is.
And that's another way of not facing it too. Like sometimes you kind of working through it and not really feeling your way through it, either feeling it physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. So yeah, I think it's, for a lot of people, it is a combo of all that, but not getting overwhelmed by like, oh, am I grieving the right way, in terms you have to figure out. And I know for me too, is figuring out which one's going to work for me at this moment. I remember there was a time that I had to do Qigong every moment at 10 a.m. because I like it for a 10-minute Qigong morning, because I just needed to get in touch with my body and a little flow. But there's other times where that journaling and just doing a gratitude list and getting figured out at a moment, that I had to do that. So I think it really shifts, but it's basically knowing. It's also that we could do the same question when people say, how do you deal with stress? You know, I could say on all of those, I'm like an emotional eater. Like, what are you going to do? You know, that wasn't a category. How do you deal with grief?
Grief,
you know,
actually turned me into an emotional eater. Like when people started showing up with all this food, I was like, and it rewired my brain. And now I'm an emotional eater.
Is there anybody else that wanted to share some comments or thoughts about their grief at a certain scenario that's kind of showed up that worked or didn't work for them?
I think Lisa had a great point.
Okay.
She said here that sometimes people think that she's home and just available to talk all the time. I think that that's a challenge for those of us that have been in this world for a while, that people that maybe didn't want to have these conversations before are now ready and think that we've just been on standby and don't realize that maybe now's not the right time to invade that space. In fact, right before I got on this call, I got a call just like that and had to make the decision, right? Like, am I going to provide this support? Or am I going to be more prepared and not keep stepping on Stephanie's toes and posting my cut and pastes too early? Guess which one I chose.
I also like love in this chat box that a lot of people are being really vulnerable. And I know, Amber, you kind of started that trend, but Jill McClellan, she's like, I just told my therapist that I work nonstop from the moment I wake up to like when I go to bed. It's my grieving loss of normal routine. Totally.
Yeah. And the fact that you're coming here. Yeah. So thank you for, and coming here to kind of express it, if this is that time or not. And yeah, I've had moments, I have all these different tools and getting caught up in it, and just, instead of just being kind of present with it. Yeah.
Rocio?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I relate to a lot of what I think. At least for me, I've gotten to the point where I'm at least more comfortable being comfortable in the uncertainty of what the emotions are bringing, and really being present with the emotions, even if they feel like they're pulling and tugging at me in a way that feels incredibly uncomfortable. And that's not easy to do, and it's a process for everyone. But it's really about, there's also this other layer around grief. It's like, what's underneath the grief? What does the grief need, right? What is it really trying to tell you?
Right.
And that's often the question that it's easy to avoid, because it's about capacity, and we don't always have the capacity to be able to hold what the grief is actually needing in the moment. And so there's coping mechanisms.
Yeah. So we'll get
but
that.
Then there comes a yeah.
So we'll get to some of those in a moment. But I know one of the things that Amber was really with her focus when we talked about, you know, how we grieve and what we do, and that, like, how it affects us. One of the things Amber really focused on, kind of gave me some more education on, is just the physical component of it. Because I know that's something that, you know, just like Megan mentioned earlier, you know, either really energized or really fatigued. Amber, do you want to share a little bit about some of that kind of physical stuff that you were really kind of, for us, and to be aware for others as well?
Yeah, so I originally became more obsessed with this idea because I read a book and I listened to a talk by Dr. Robert Sapolsky, and the book that I suggest everyone, or the lecture, which we'll get you a link later, right, Jill? It's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And it essentially gives you the analogy of how we are essentially animals, and we have all these stress responses to keep us safe. So if you're like a gazelle and you're out on the savannah and a lion is coming to get you guys, one of you's going down, right? So your goal right now is to be the fastest gazelle. So I don't know about you guys, like if you were going on a plane trip and you start getting like the upset stomach, that's an animalistic response to fear and danger. And your body is trying to evacuate so that you are the lightest gazelle, the lightest animal, so you can just get out of there so that somebody else gets taken down by the lion. And I just became more and more fascinated with this because it started to explain so many things with how I personally internalize all of my stress. So this is a little list of things that are helpful. You can take it, you can leave it, but these are things to do to kind of help like shake out your grief, shake out your stress. So you can take up yoga, eating healthy, good sleep, which I know is incredibly difficult right now. I keep falling asleep during like almost all of our Zoom meetings because my sleep schedule is so messed up. I'm so tired. I'm just so tired. I can't. This morning I was like sitting here and I just kept like,
Amber, don't admit that.
I'm so tired.
That's why I kept on asking you questions. Yeah.
I was
Okay,
so
Amber,
tired.
yeah.
I'm just saying, it's okay if you guys feeling sick. Get moving. Like sometimes I'll just stand up and I'll just do like 50 jumping jacks. It just helps like elevate my heart rate. It gets things going in my brain. Keeping tabs on your health. You can do journaling. You can find out if you have a natural rhythm with how you're feeling throughout the month. Take on new responsibilities. It's sort of vague. And reaching out to your social circle, which is what we're doing right now by having these happy hours, which is so great. It's just keeping you talking to other people. The last thing that Robert Sapolsky talks about in his book is about a test on mice, and that the mice that had friends reacted better to outside stress. So when they would get really, really upset and they had nothing to comfort them, they would lash out, they would bite. But if they had friends, they were instantly calmer. So I encourage you again to do whatever you feel is best for you. And then should I pause for questions or should I? Yeah.
Megan, there's an interesting question that Rose just brought up. I think I would love to address that. Megan, did you?
Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay. So Rose, where are you? I'm trying to see where you are on here. Rose just hi there. Really great question. Would some personal goals during grief be helpful or just a distraction? I wouldn't put any pressure on yourself. And sometimes when I hear the word goals, or for me, this is just for me, it's something I need to accomplish and go through. And so with grief, you sometimes have to kind of just back into it and let go. And so the idea that maybe being in tune with yourself could be, if you like, just spend time in for reflection, having some structure. But if you kind of say personal goals, then the idea is not to put more stress on yourself or
let it get messy. Like, you know, like Rocio mice, like just get into the pain of it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to experience the pain of it one way or another.
Yeah. So the idea,
gonna rip the Band-Aid off, or
and once again, sometimes you don't know when that's going to happen. And
that's
so
true.
The expectations you have of yourself for grieving a certain way, like sometimes you don't know till you're out of it and you look back. Like, you know, I remember I left like all my personal stuff on a YouTube, like in a metro in San Francisco. I couldn't get into my car. Like I was stranded. And it was just because I couldn't focus on anything. Like I couldn't, I was so out of it that I couldn't hold on to anything. And so it's like, okay, is that my lowest moment? Like when I couldn't, I had to borrow $20 to somebody and I had to do my phone. It's like and did I need that? Was that like, thank you?
Oh my gosh. I would like, maybe on our YouTube page, we should do like our 20 or like lowest moments with grief.
That wasn't a
I don't even know if I can, that's like not safe for work in my realm.
So Rose, does that?
I wanted to share something. I wanted to say that, like, you know, for some of us, setting goals and accomplishing things can be sort of addictive, right? And that can be like a really nice, like, you know, that can be an easy out. And I have a business coach that I work with, and recently I worked with my business coach to go a couple of months and have a goal of not accomplishing anything.
Right.
And really like, so while, that was a goal that I set for myself, that was an incredible challenge that I paid a great deal of money for support in, and stretched myself. I was also, you know, every time I failed, it was totally acceptable.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for bringing that perspective of like knowing how you operate, but not being a perfectionist with it either. Like for me, it was just one thing a day, you know, or it depends on where you are in your grief. So I think Rose, does that help a little bit in terms of taking the pressure off and getting some different perspectives? Yeah, okay, great. All right, let's go to question number 3.
It's been a while since we've had a cheers, though. We need a cheers.
You're right. Oh, thank you.
This is a happy hour.
This is a happy hour. This is happy. Thank you. Drinking in company is one way to relieve stress. My friend, yeah, there's different ways to relieve it, and getting groups together. Okay. Question number 3. During COVID-19, I have found, and then you fill in the blank, okay? So this is a little more challenging one because you fill it in. During COVID-19, I found to assist with my emotions, feelings, and grief. A, cardio, I need to sweat it out. B, journaling, power in the page. C, binge watching, reality shows better than the real thing. D, being in nature, go hug a tree. E, working, don't have room to grieve. Or F, other, or combo, or haven't figured it out yet. Whatever you feel.
I feel like you were trying to out me if I put the reality TV one in there.
Oh,
Yeah, you're bad TV.
yeah.
It's like so bad it's good though.
Yeah.
I mean,
It is.
yeah.
I'm working with the people, like, from experience. I know it helps individuals. Reality show can be one of them.
My new sick fascination is those like get married at first sight shows. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Watch
So
out.
you want to share some of the feedback, Megan? I know you're eating something.
You guys, I am so hungry, and it's really funny that this is the response because too busy to grieve, working all the time is my thing, and my husband actually came in and forced food onto my desk. So let's see. It looks like we've got it all across the board. I mean, I'm not surprised to hear that this group is really thinking of creative ways and really realizes that we all have an action and a part to play in our own grief story. I see gardening, distracting. We've got walking, being in nature. I know for a lot of us, being in nature is a challenge right now, for a lot of good reasons. Yay, Schitt's Creek. Let's see. And cramming time into the beginning of the day. I think for a lot of us, there's an opportunity now to be exploring new schedules, right? Like we're talking about our sleep schedules getting all mixed around. I've got 2 little kids in my house all the time. So that's a new scheduling component.
Yeah, sleep, I think, is there's the basic necessities that we have to do and how to work it out. Another one I really, there's a lot that's not on here. I think music is such a powerful tool, right? To emote emotions or to move with it or not. I didn't put it on there, but I'm like, music right now, because we can't always be out in nature or be with your doggy or family or pet. Like those are other things to deal with it. But I know for music, when you hear certain things, and I don't know if you guys have seen some of these live concerts, like these orchestras going on to Zoom, and like
yes,
they've been doing these. I'm glad you're all here because I heard that we have a little competition right now. Because I heard Hamilton, don't all leave at once. But I heard Hamilton is doing a live version right now on Zoom.
No!
Don't all leave. But so I think music and inspirational music like that is really great. So I just I just wanted to, if it's the other, I don't know if that's some other people's stuff.
Thank you so much for adding that. I don't know, because I've turned into a bit of a weird workaholic lately. Like, I've been forgetting to listen to music.
Yeah, I think that is, and I do like binaural rhythms when I work, so I have some sort of like I don't think it's quite the womb stuff, Rocio, but the binaural rhythms I know really affects my different, senses and creativity or and so on like that. The kids' emotions are difficult for sure. Dealing with family members, yeah. And like all these tools, finding out what works for them, because it could be different for everybody, right? For different people in the family. Megan might have to work a lot for her, family members or her kids. It's coloring or creating. So like balancing all that in the home. Yeah, that's hard. Is there something else, Megan? Any things I haven't had a chance to read through all of them?
Whoa, can we please take a moment of silence for our good friend Tej, who has finals coming up? because that is a next level. So wow.
That's how you're dealing with your emotions.
I didn't even know that was like still going to be a pressure that's like put upon you. You're actually trying to graduate, is that right? Yeah. So like an actual graduation is on the line. Wow. Cheers, TJ.
Yeah. And I just also want to, Lisa, I hope, I mean, Lori, I hope you don't mind if I read yours out loud. Well, I'm not at a great point about the music. When I was grieving the loss of my husband, it really helped. Even the songs that make me cry, it totally helped.
Those are the best ones. Those are the best ones.
Those, and I remember listening to some punk music when I was listening to my ex when he died. I was like, I wanted to get it out. I was like, fuck you for leaving me.
I love that, Stephanie.
Different music.
You have the punk spirit.
Yeah. So anyways, so there's different music for different types of emotions to emote. So Nadine, I realized about a week into this that I hadn't been listening to music, which is super weird. I finally put on some music and felt a huge release, like I've been holding my breath for a week. Wow, I'm great. I'm glad you're just recognizing that. We have a record player. I love the ritual of playing a record. Oh yeah, the ritual around certain things too, of music, of running and choosing your song list, your playlist, whatever it might be. Yeah,
Jeff loves to, we have, if you know anything about us, we have like 4 different turntables and like mixers in our house and speakers and everything. Jeff loves to be a DJ, so I feel like I have like sometimes at night we have like our ongoing like beats party. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So I think what we're going to go to right now is one of the other opportunities that we have is to get quiet, right? And to focus on our breath as a way to do this. And I know that Jill McLennan mentioned that earlier about breathing and just kind of taking some moments. And so I wanted to give Rocio an opportunity.
Guys, Rocio had to drop off and she let me know that she had to drop off. So I actually, if it's okay, I'm ready to do the closeout whenever we are.
Oh, we're not ready to close out because we still have.
Oh my gosh! Thank you. Good. Okay, sorry about that.
I mean, maybe she was going to Hamilton. I don't know. I would be pretty upset.
Just left us for Hamilton.
Yeah. I was like, okay, we know who are, when we say like, you got friends, right? She's no, I'm sure we will be checking in with her later. Checking in with her later. So the power of music, great. We do have another question here.
Okay.
Yep.
Right now, chat question 4. Right now, I am feeling A, numb, B, anger, C, guilt, D, sadness, E, hopeful, and F, all or none of the above.
I'm kind of an F, I guess. I mean, I'm always kind of an F, but
yeah.
There's just like so much to do. I feel like everyone in this room might be called to like the call of death work, like in one way or another. And I feel empowered by that. And that's a weird like thing to feel when there's like a mass pandemic. But there's like so much to do and so much to be done in this community. So I'm feeling like weird, but empowered.
Yeah. And I think some of these might look familiar to you. Sometimes in the context of grief, there's Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, kind of 5 stages of grief. As we know now, it's not very linear in those moments, but the idea of denial and isolation, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. People who are grieving do not necessarily go through the stages in the same order experience of them all. So these are just other contextual things that we've been kind of given as knowing that these are all experiences in one way or another, not linear, as Amber mentioned earlier, that we might go through. Megan, was there anything else kind of in the?
Yeah, I mean, there's some good comments in here. We've got a lot of Fs. Something that Jill, you mentioned that triggered something for me. There's this saying that my feelings are like a bowl full of fish hooks, and when I pick one up, they all come up. And right now we're dealing with these really big fish hooks. And Jill, I'm with you for this, like, wild vacillation between being so overwhelmed and then so hopeful for, like, I have wanted for community death care. I have wanted for people to have the opportunities that I have had. I have wanted for people to experience life on that level, and seeing that we just got a lot closer to that, both instantly and in the long term.
I want to piggyback on that with what Kayla just said. She says she feels guilty because she's not end of life doula. Kayla, stop. You have a gift that you're able to offer the end of life community at large, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't. And being a certified end of life doula means nothing. Okay, it's about who you are and what you have to offer. So scratch your little comment.
I was heard, you know, we don't have to be an A+ at everything. Like in this, especially at this time, the fact that you're here is that you have offerings to give, because you can hold space for people and taking the pressure off the credential.
And the 5 of us, just so you know, are a hodgepodge of people. We're not like any kind of like, you know, big professionals or anything. We're just trying to here to like build community and empower other people to know that they have good community and that we have work to do. Yeah, Amber, so what's up?
You're certified now. I just certified you. I can send you your thing. It's the same thing. I'll draft up a PDF on Canva. You're done.
Yeah, I think we need to put that aside for a second.
And let's put Betsy. I want to put Betsy on the line.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually bringing up something really interesting for me. About, because anyone can do this. I'm just wondering where this feeling of needing to be certified or an end of life doula or something is like, is that a pressure people are feeling right now, that you have to be kind of a professional to do this work? Because
if you feel that pressure and if it's coming from somebody,
like it just kind of broke my heart. It just broke my heart.
Let it go
right now.
Let it go, because where you're at right now is okay.
Yeah, I really want to tell everybody, really, please don't even think. It just really broke my heart. I don't know.
Thank you.
Like that the pressure of that's coming up, and that's, you know, I think.
And that's the core of what this group believes, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So please, that just.
And to go along with that, that can also be some grief, thinking that you wish you can be, like that pressure on yourself of like wishing I could do where I should be. And it's like, no, we're doing it now. And that really comes back to one of Amber's key thoughts about kind of grief. Amber, do you want to share what your thought about grief and really what it's all about?
Yeah, so I was going to say 2 things, because Stephanie, you sort of said it, and I wanted to really come back on that. One of the other things that I saw as a funeral director is everyone at some point says, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to this person. What do I say? And people don't hear you during this time because their head is so full of their own thoughts. And it's really about holding space for people and being present and offering, just letting that person be whatever they need to be. People don't remember what you say. They remember how you made them feel. And so I think that that's a really important thing. Yeah. And then my last thing was, I don't know about you guys, but I apologize for everything. Like, I apologize to the wall when I bump into it. Like, that's how ingrained it is. I'm like, oops, sorry. And I'm like, there isn't even anybody here. So don't apologize for being a human being. Like, if you're sad or you're angry or you're numb, anger, guilt, sadness, hopeful, like, you don't have to apologize. The only thing that I ask people is, it's a quote from No Man is an Island, and I always feel kind of silly saying it, but it's, if I do not like what I see in other people, it's often a reflection of myself. Whatever it is I don't like in other people is a reflection of myself, I think. So if you're really angry, you view everyone else as angry. If you're, whatever it is that you feel, you see in others. If you're mistrustful, you think that everyone is trying to screw you over. So being mindful, being present, like, it's fine to be angry, but don't put that on other people. It's fine to be sad.
Dr. Phil says, because I'm actually a closet Dr. Phil fan.
Is that your show you binge watch? Is that one of your that's your reality show? Now we know.
He says, there's a lot in that old boy that I don't like about me. And I think there's something to say about that, right? The things that trigger us in others are the things that we feel insecure about in ourselves.
Can you put that in the chat box, please? Because I love me some Dr. Phil.
A Dr. Phil quote also? God.
I feel like it's really relevant and important, Megan. We love us some Dr. Phil.
And also, so Lisa shares her perspective as going back to classes and certifications as somebody that is a social worker, getting different credentials. I think sometimes the classes, et cetera, can bring confidence and trust in yourself. Some people may increase their confidence by having more information and getting certification. Other people can use their experience and natural talent to have faith in their skills to hold space. And I think it's great. We're not here to, do what's comfortable for you, but just don't hold it against yourself, I guess is the thing.
And
everybody has a different path.
Beware of the structures that outline you, that conform you. You know, sometimes when you're learning something new, you're not quite aware how you can expand in that area if you're confined to what someone's telling you this is how it goes. And that's kind of my fear right now around some of these dualist,
I'm going to unmute
certifications.
I see. I'm going to unmute you, Christy. Or you have to unmute yourself. Go for it.
I think sometimes for me also, it's like, I feel like I need to gather up all this information, right? Like take all these classes, take all these classes, take all these classes, but then I still don't even feel like I'm ready just from even the classes. Like I still feel really new, you know, and like, what am I going to, you know, it's like, it's not that real life, and it's really hard to get somebody to shadow because, you know, and then, so I think, but I'm working on myself. I know it's all in here. I just have to get rid of that whole mindset of that I can't do it, because I know I can, but I think it's still like you try to, you know, take all these classes so you have the list of classes, but then really you still have it within you no matter if you take the classes or not. But
confidence is an aspect of the work. And when I started doing this work, I was terrified to knock on the door of my first patient because I felt like I would just disturb their entire day. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing there. And it took me like 15 minutes. I was like pacing around. And then when I did it, I realized I walked in and this person hadn't spoken to another human being for like half a day, and that they were in pain and they actually just needed someone to talk to. So you never know like what you're giving the space for someone that you're serving, and it takes confidence to step into that space. So, you know,
I'm throwing myself out there, but I'm still just kind of like, oh, you know, see what happens.
Just keep stepping out there. I took us way off topic of grief, Steph. I'm sorry.
But I think we're going to have to escalate this. We'll percolate this up to be a topic that we get into, because this clearly resonated. So I'm making some notes on my end.
Oh, I was muted, but I was going to say we all kind of, I'm like, wait, why is Megan talking? It's because I'm on mute. So we've all gone in our own kind of grief, around our own grief of like, are we good enough? Can we do it? You know, there's this wave of grief and everything. For us that are so caring and want to just be out there and do it, I think there has something. And Jill and I have talked about this a lot. It's, you know, she has a lot of individuals coming to her and talking about like, I'm not ready. And it's just the confidence in going out there and doing it. And most people are just grateful for somebody listening. I also we can go back to this, but you all have your own stories. And I don't have a chance to, what I would want to do is work with each one of you is what's your story that makes it relevant that you're doing this work? What are your experiences that you can reframe, if you will, so you can feel more confident in offering this, because all of your relationships can have led you to this work or this aha in something. So those are other opportunities down the road. Megan,
we should do what's your story, TGIF.
Like what's, you know, Megan, like my prompting of why you are here and you are in this space and what you do have to offer. So we can do that later on. So thank you for bringing that up, though. I think that's part of the grief. We're all like struggling with our own.
The helplessness. How can we help?
Yeah.
We can help. Yeah, we'll put this on the very soon upcoming schedule, because what is on the upcoming schedule? Because we probably just want to kind of wrap up here.
Yeah.
We don't want to take.
Why don't I go ahead and share that?
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah.
Oh,
So Megan, is there anything else that you saw that people, well, you're doing that.
I think we're good.
Okay. I think I just want to close. One of the things that we're doing is that we have the different platforms. So stay tuned for the Think Death It's Friday. We have a YouTube. We also actually have an e-newsletter, a MailChimp newsletter that Amber's put together. So that's going to also highlight different topics for the upcoming weeks, and information in the back. So you stay tuned for some of that.
And please know that this is a very inclusive community, and that what we mean to do is make it as useful and information-based as possible, so that people can A, get help, or B, go help others.
Yeah.
So, just let us know if you want to talk about a certain thing, and please connect with each other as well. This is meant to be a community.
Yeah, definitely. So our topic next week is going to be advanced healthcare directives, legacy and planning. I'm actually going to be hosting one Wednesday morning. I'm going to do an introduction to that, because that's really the stuff that I really enjoy, is getting in front of those conversations you have and taking care of yourself, family, or people you might be working with. So I'll be doing some information on that. In addition to what we're going to be here on Friday together. Cannabis and integrative healing, April 24th. And we'll continue on. As these conversations happen, we hear from you of what's really needed. So I think that's great. So thank you. I wanted to end with just a poem, and that's another thing that maybe people can relate to in terms of dealing with grief. I don't know if some of you know Mary Oliver. She died earlier this year, who was a poet who really held a lot of space for others in this grief and dying and reflective space. And so what I want to close with tonight, and please feel free to share comments on how you're feeling now in the chat room if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and read Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. Calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things.
Gonna make me cry, Steph.
Thank you all for being here. We'll be here next week. I hope that you all have kind of a sense of how this grief is sitting in you right now, and something kind that you can do for yourself in the upcoming moments and days. Let's end off.
Yes. Cheers, everybody. TDIF. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. Have a good Easter if you celebrate.
Thank you.
Steph, do you just want to stay?
Yeah, let's hit. I'm going to take the recording off. Stop.
Okay.
Hi.